Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, April the 16th. We got a huge 10-game slate for Friday night. This is definitely a crazy slate. We have a ton of news already that's come out today. I'm recording this video the night before. I record all my videos the night before, and this slate already has a ton of value. There's some really short-handed teams that we're going to talk about. Some clear standout plays today with guys sitting out. So should be a fun slate. 10 games, going to be a lot to talk about. I'm going to try and go as quickly as I can. There'll definitely be games that we spend more time on, and then there'll be games that we don't spend much time on at all. But I do want to get through every game and talk about every team, give you guys my early thoughts for this 10-game slate. So before we do get started with the breakdown, as always, I would appreciate it if you would click that like button down below. And if you are new to the channel here, be sure to click that subscribe button as well. Hit the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload, and you also do get notified every time I go live. Once again, I should be live streaming Friday afternoon, probably around 4:30 Eastern time. So if you guys want to tune into the stream, I'll be live on my YouTube channel, breaking down the slate with you guys, answering all your questions in the live stream. But yeah, hit the like button, guys. Appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button, and let's go ahead and take a look at Friday's 10-game slate. So we'll start off with the Pelicans and the Wizards right out of the gate. This is a very, very appealing game. Two very fast-paced teams, two teams that don't play much defense. This feels very similar to the Wizards and Sacramento game that we saw a couple days ago. Like, this is going to be a game that we want exposure to. I expect a ton of points scored here. Right now, this game has a 242.5 total, which I'm pretty sure, it's the highest on the slate. I don't think there's going to be any other game that comes in with a higher total than that. So lots to like on both sides. Starting off with the Pelicans, for me here, it's pretty easy with this Pelicans team. I think it's just the top two guys, Zion and Brandon Ingram. Now, neither one, I think, are like priority studs for me. There's a lot of stud options today. I don't think Zion or Ingram are guys I'm really like starting my lineups with, but they're definitely guys I would have exposure to if I was playing multiple lineups. We know Zion has a ton of upside. This is obviously a great matchup for him against a Wizards team that doesn't play much defense, plays super fast. I do like Zion quite a bit. Brandon Ingram feels a little bit overpriced, but the matchup is really good that I could definitely see getting to him. He still has that 50-point ceiling. Did put up 53 DK points earlier this year against the Wizards, so I do like both those guys in tournaments. Now, Lonzo Ball is probable, so he is expected to make his return. I don't think that really impacts, Zion or Ingram that much. I think those guys still get a nice, still look good here with that, even with Lonzo returning. I would say Lonzo coming back probably hurts Eric Bledsoe the most, but Eric Bledsoe already was not a guy that I was even considering. So really it's just Zion and Ingram for me on the Pelicans side. I think those are the two guys that really stand out most. Lonzo you could maybe go to as well. He should be super low owned on a big slate like this, but not a guy that I'm insanely confident in. Don't love him at his price point. I think it's Zion and Ingram for me. So we can go ahead and move on to the Wizards side. Talking about Washington here, again, I think it's just the top two guys for me. Really, this game, I think this is a game that we're going to definitely want to look to for our studs. There's a lot of stud plays, Zion, Ingram, Westbrook, Beal. There's other teams, though, that we're going to talk about that are shorthanded, like Charlotte, like Toronto, Detroit. These are going to be teams we look to for value. But I definitely think we can get exposure to our studs in this game. Love Russell Westbrook today. At 11K, he still feels too cheap on DraftKings. The dude just continues to put up massive games on a nightly basis. He's put up at least 60 DK points in 5 of his last 6 games. He's put up at least 55 in 6 straight games. I mean, Westbrook's just been so good, literally putting up a triple-double almost every night. Even with Bradley Beal playing, even though Beal's healthy now, that really hasn't affected Westbrook at all. He's still going out there and stuffing the stat sheet every night. Fantastic matchup here. Another great spot for Westbrook, facing a fast-paced Pelicans team that does not play much defense. We saw him have a ton of success against Sacramento. I expect a similar type performance from Westbrook here. It's basically, an identical matchup to that one. So love Russell Westbrook with all the value that we already have today. I think he is clearly someone we are going to want to try and pay up for. Love him on DK at 11K. On Yahoo, there's a lot of good mid-range options that we're going to talk about that I do really like. But if you want to pay up for a guy on Yahoo, I think Westbrook at $55 clearly looks like a top option. And then Bradley Beal, I don't mind either. Since coming back from his little injury, he's been okay, especially if his last 2 games have been a little bit better. 48 DK points against Utah, 41 DK points against Sacramento. Now, Beal, I'm not as confident in as I am with Westbrook, but in a matchup like this, Bradley Beal should be able to have a ton of success against this Pelicans team. So you could also go there. He's been pretty affordable on Yahoo these last few days. $38, I think he looks pretty good on Yahoo. I'd be more likely to play Beal on Yahoo than I would on DK, but he's a fine option too. Westbrook, though, I think is my my favorite play from this Wizards team for sure. Moving on to the next game, though, OKC and Detroit. So on the Thunder, they're not a team I have much interest in today. You know, they've got guys out like SGA and Horford and Poku, but really everyone's been priced up to reflect, you know, these guys being out. There's really no standout values from this OKC team. Like, if I had to play anyone on the Thunder, it would probably be like Darius Bazley or Lou Dort. Bazley had a really good game in his first game back, but then, you know, kind of came back down to earth in that game against Utah. Looked better, though, against Golden State. Did have 32 DK points in 28 minutes. I think as long as this game can stay close, which it should, two pretty bad teams here, we're going to get like mid-30s minutes from Darius Bazley. He should be very productive when he's on the floor with no SGA, with no Al Horford. So I don't mind him as a low-owned tournament option for 5,600. Same with Lou Dort. Lou Dort had that career game against Utah, 65 DK points, had 42 real-life points in 37 minutes. He's actually, you know, he actually gets a lot of usage when SGA is off the floor, and I'm pretty sure he actually leads the team in usage with SGA off the floor. So Lou Dort actually does really benefit with no Gilgeous-Alexander. He has upside, I think. You know, Lou Dort's not normally a guy that we think of, you know, being a high upside option, but his upside is definitely a lot higher when you take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander off the floor. So at 5,300 in a matchup against a bad Pistons team, I don't mind Lou Dort either. I think he is someone we can go to. If I was going to play any Thunder today, it'd be those two guys. Probably not looking to anyone else, though, on this Thunder team. There's just too many other better plays, too many other guys I prefer today. But moving on to the Detroit side, Detroit, another team that's shorthanded today. Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, Corey Joseph, Dennis Smith Jr., and Wayne Ellington have already been ruled out for this game. Rodney McGruder is also out. You know, this Detroit team is a team that does run a pretty deep rotation. They still have a ton of guys. Just looking through their players, it looks like they still have 8, 9. They still have 10 available players. They still have 11, actually. They still have 11 available players. Not saying all 11 of those guys are going to play, but I don't know if we're going to get massive minutes from anyone on this team. But there are some guys that clearly do benefit with, you know, Grant, Plumlee, Joseph out. I think the first guy that I'll be looking to on this Detroit team is Isaiah Stewart. So 4,400 for Isaiah Stewart. He looks like a clear top value play today. With Plumlee already ruled out. We saw last time Plumlee was out against Sacramento, Isaiah Stewart did start that game, played 33 minutes, had 42 DK points. He's been, you know, relatively productive this year on a point per minute basis. He's been around a fantasy point per minute player, very likely to get low 30s, if not, you know, mid 30s minutes here without Plumlee. At 4,400, he is definitely too cheap and is a clear value play today, in my opinion. He stands out as one of the better center values overall. Obviously assuming that he does start for Plumlee, which he most likely will. I like Stewart a lot on both sides. I think he's a top value play today. And then with Jeremy Grant out, you know, I think that does benefit a guy like Josh Jackson. I actually do have a good amount of interest in Josh Jackson in tournaments. Now for cash games, it might be a bit risky to still go to him just because, you know, the minutes can fluctuate from game to game. But without Corey Joseph, without Jeremy Grant, I mean, Josh Jackson should be productive when he's on the floor. And this is someone that, you know, when he's playing well, they will give him good minutes. I mean, we saw against the Clippers, he played 29 minutes. Against Portland, he played 30 minutes. If Josh Jackson comes out and plays well at the beginning, they'll play him 30, 32 minutes, and he's a productive player when he is on the floor. You know, it's always risky with these Detroit guys. Besides, you know, some of the, like, we know Isaiah Stewart's going to get minutes, but like Josh Jackson, the minutes can fluctuate from him. Diallo, same thing. Bay, same thing. But these are guys I want to have exposure to because they are cheap, and Detroit is, you know, they're shorthanded today for sure. There's definitely some guys here that I do like for value. And then with Corey Joseph out, Corey Joseph been playing pretty big minutes for this Pistons team, been getting around 30 minutes a night. He's been starting as well. With him out, I assume that we get Killian Hayes in the starting lineup. I guess they could start Saben Lee, but I'm assuming that Killian Hayes starts. 3,500, another very strong value play today, someone I will definitely be looking to for cheap. Like, there are so many good values today. I mean, this is, like I said, guys, this is a loaded slate. There's so many options. There's a ton of ways you can go. There's already, like, I'm thinking like 10 guys that are playable under 4K. So much good value today. I think Killian Hayes looks like a great value, assuming he does start for Corey Joseph. Should be really productive when he's on the floor. Should, you know, get the minutes, I'd assume. Saben Lee will probably get some backup point guard minutes, but I do expect Killian Hayes to get probably around 30 minutes if he's in the starting lineup, which makes him a strong value at 3,500. And then, you know, Sadiq Bey, Hamidou Diallo, Saben Lee, you know, these are guys I think you can look to in tournaments. They should be a lot lower owned than some of these other guys we've talked about. I'm going to be interested to see what the Pistons starting lineup is. I assume Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, Josh Jackson will be in there, Sadiq Bey will be in there. But then do they start like Frank Jackson? Do they start Diallo? we'll have to wait and see. If Diallo were to start, I'd like him a lot more. He definitely would be someone I'd be looking to if he does start. But for now, my top plays from this Detroit team are definitely Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes. And then, depending on what the starting lineup is, could have some interest in a guy like Diallo. Josh Jackson, I do have some interest in tournaments as well. But I'm probably not going to, Okafor, Cook, Jackson, Frank Jackson, Sekou. I'm not going to these guys, though. It's really just the starters for me, and then Diallo off the bench I have some interest in. But yeah, we can go ahead and move on to the next game, the Clippers and the Sixers. So on the Clippers today, there isn't much I really like here. Kawhi Leonard is currently questionable, so just keep an eye on that. If Kawhi winds up playing, I don't see much from the Clippers that stands out today. There are just so many other guys I prefer over Kawhi and PG. But if we do get word that Kawhi is out again, then obviously you could look to Paul George. I still don't think he'd be a top option just because there's so many other, like I said, so many other guys I like. But PG would definitely be viable if Kawhi sits. Reggie Jackson, you could go to as well. But overall, I don't see a ton I really like from this Clippers team. I kind of just hope Kawhi plays so that way I really don't have to consider any of these Clippers. But obviously Paul George, Reggie, Marcus Morris, these guys will become viable options if Kawhi does get ruled out. But then on the Sixers side, I don't see much I really like here. Embiid at 10,500. On this slate, there's just other studs I prefer. Like I'd rather play Westbrook in a really good matchup. I think I'd rather play KD and Kyrie over Embiid. I just don't see much from this Sixers team. Tobias Harris is currently questionable, so just keep an eye on that. If he gets ruled out, that's a little boost for Joel Embiid, a little boost for Ben Simmons as well. But I'm pretty sure last time Tobias Harris was out, Ben Simmons still did not have that good of a game. Ben Simmons has just been so bad lately. It's tough to trust him at this point. The good thing is that his price is coming down. I mean, he's 7,800, so you could maybe go to Ben Simmons if Tobias Harris gets ruled out, but overall, this is not a game I have much interest in. It should be a great game to watch, but I don't see much DFS appeal here. There's just other games I prefer today. So we can go ahead and move on to the next one, Charlotte and Brooklyn. This is one I have a lot of interest in, especially on the Charlotte side. So Charlotte going to be another, like Detroit, going to be another super short-handed team today. No Gordon Hayward, no LaMelo Ball. Devontae Graham has been ruled out for today. P.J. Washington is doubtful. Malik Monk remains out. And then Brad Wanamaker is questionable. So really the big one here is that Devontae Graham is out, along with Hayward and LaMelo who remain out. With Devontae Graham out, though, Terry Rozier at 8,100, I like a lot today. I mean, it's really hard not to like him. No Graham, no LaMelo, no Gordon Hayward. He is going to get all the usage. He's going to play a ton of minutes. He played 43 minutes in regulation last game. Great matchup against Brooklyn. Pace-up spot. Should be a relatively fast-paced game. This is another game that I expect to be very high-scoring. I like Terry Rozier a lot here. As long as Charlotte can keep this game close, I think we get probably 38, 40 minutes from Terry Rozier. Going to take a ton of shots. Going to get a ton of usage. He's going to be the primary ball handler when he's on the floor. He's one of my favorite plays today. I love him on both sides. 8,100 on DK. Still think he's in play at that price tag. $30 on Yahoo, just way too cheap over there. Terry Rozier, I definitely like today with Devontae Graham out. Miles Bridges, I don't mind either. At 6,400 now. He's kind of come back down to earth these last few games, but still 6,400. We know we're getting 38, 40 minutes from Miles Bridges. He should be productive as well. Should average around a fantasy point per minute with all these guys out for Charlotte right now. I expect, Bridges, Rozier, these guys to be very productive when they're on the floor. So do have interest in Miles Bridges. Jalen McDaniels, I think someone we can look to as well. Now, he was really chalky last slate, and he kind of busted for people. Only had 22 DK points in 31 minutes, but a super short-handed team right now. Going to play a ton of minutes, 5,200, still viable for me. He's probably my fourth favorite Hornet today, but he is still someone you can consider. Cody Zeller, I don't have that much interest in. He's been coming off the bench lately, hasn't been playing many minutes, so I don't want to go to him. If I was going to play any of the Charlotte bigs, it would be Bismack Biyombo. Bismack Biyombo's played 28 and 23 minutes in back-to-back games. He has started in place of P.J. Washington, and he should start again at center with Washington doubtful. There's other values I prefer today, but Bismack is viable if you want to go to him at 3,900. But the guy that I think really stands out for value for Charlotte is Caleb Martin. So last time we saw Caleb Martin start was against the Lakers. That was a game where Terry Rozier was out. Devontae Graham played. So basically, we're just getting the opposite today. Terry Rozier is going to play, and Devontae Graham's going to be out. So I am expecting Caleb Martin to move back into the starting lineup again. And in that game that he did start, he played 35 minutes, had 41 DK points, was super productive. I don't know if we can expect that kind of point per minute production from Caleb Martin today. But if he does wind up starting again, 3,600 in a good matchup against Brooklyn. He looks like another really good value play on the slate and is someone I'm definitely going to be looking to. He has shooting guard and small forward eligibility on DK, which makes him super appealing. There's a lot of flexibility with how you want to roster him, so he's the value play I like from this Charlotte team. Overall, though, there's a ton to like here. I think my two favorite plays are definitely Rozier and Martin, assuming that Caleb Martin does start. But Miles Bridges I have interest in. Jalen McDaniels I have interest in. Biyombo you could go to, but overall, that's probably it. Those four guys, Rozier, Caleb Martin, Bridges, and McDaniels, I think are my four favorite plays from this Hornets team. Brad Wanamaker, though, I do want to mention. So with Devontae Graham out, I do expect Brad Wanamaker to get around 25, 30 minutes off the bench if he does wind up playing. Now, last time when Rozier was out and Devontae Graham played, we only got 23 minutes off the bench from Wanamaker. He wasn't very productive at all, but you could go to him at 3,700. He's a little bit more risky just because he hasn't been getting a ton of minutes and he hasn't been that productive, and there is a ton of great value today. But Wanamaker would be in the value pool for me if he does wind up playing. But we can go ahead and move on to the Brooklyn side now. So with the Nets here, for me, I think on this team, it's really just Kyrie and KD. Kyrie at 9,900 was on pace to absolutely smash last game, but then, blowout kind of killed him. Still finished with 59 DK points, though. Obviously, Kevin Durant was out then. Kevin Durant is expected to play today. So that does hurt Kyrie a little bit, but still without James Harden, I expect the usage on this team to continue to be dominated by Kyrie and KD. If I'm going to play any Nets today, it's going to be those two guys. Now, I don't know if either one are like top studs for me. KD, I would like at his price. I'm just a bit worried about the minutes. He's played 3 games since coming back from injury, and he's played 19, 24, and 27 minutes. He did rest their last game, so he should be, he should be full go here. He should be fully healthy. Do they play him 36 minutes today, though? I don't really know. My best guess is he probably gets like 30, 32 minutes. So at 9,400, I kind of want him. He needs to get 36 minutes to really be a guy you have to have at 9,400. If he plays 30 minutes today, you're probably not going to need him. So that does make it risky unless we get word that he's on no minutes limit. KD's probably going to be someone I avoid, depending on it all depends on the minutes restriction, though. If he is limited again, probably won't go there. But if he's not limited, do have a good amount of interest in KD at 9,400, just because with no Harden, like I said, the usage on this team is going to be dominated by Kyrie and KD. But that's probably it for Brooklyn for me. DeAndre Jordan did start last game. I don't exactly know what they're going to do with the starting lineup. LaMarcus Aldridge sadly retiring from the NBA, so Aldridge obviously no longer on the team. So I don't really know who's going to be the starting center moving forward. It could be, they could play small and play Jeff Green at the 5. They could start DeAndre Jordan again. DeAndre Jordan was really productive last game when he did start. Played 26 minutes, had 40 DK points. If he winds up starting again, you could maybe go there. But I would be a bit hesitant to go to him just because Blake Griffin is back for this game. So that's another big they have that could take minutes away from Jordan. But Jordan would still be viable, at least if he does wind up starting. But overall, I think clearly we just want to look to the stars here, Kyrie and KD. And KD for me, it all depends on if he's on a minutes limit or not. But yeah, we can go ahead and talk about Orlando and Toronto now. So on Orlando today, not much I really like here overall. Michael Carter-Williams is out, so I do want to talk about Cole Anthony for 5,100. Cole Anthony been getting around, low to mid-20s minutes off the bench with Michael Carter-Williams playing. Now that Michael Carter-Williams is out, I assume Cole Anthony does move back to the starting lineup and probably gets around 30 minutes if I had to guess. With him starting and likely playing around 30 minutes for 5,100, does he stand out as a top play today? No. If this was a different slate, I think Cole Anthony would be like a top option, but there are just so many good plays today. There's so many good value plays that, there's guys like Killian Hayes could easily outscore Cole Anthony today, and I would not be surprised. And Killian Hayes is $1,500 cheaper. So for that reason, I think those are guys I'm going to look to over Cole Anthony, but he is definitely viable today with MCW out. Mo Bamba was out last game. We saw Wendell Carter Jr. have a really good game. Played 31 minutes, had 47 DK points. If Mo Bamba is out again, you could look to Wendell Carter Jr. Again, I don't think he'd really be like a top option for me, but definitely would be a secondary play, would be a guy to at least have in my player pool. He'd at least be in consideration for me. But that's probably it for this Orlando team. Overall, Orlando, not a team I want to have a ton of exposure to. I think it's really just Cole Anthony and Wendell Carter Jr. for me, obviously if Mo Bamba's out. But yeah, we can go ahead and move on to the Toronto side. So this is another team going to be super short-handed. Toronto missing a ton of guys today. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, OG Anunoby are all already ruled out, whereas Gary Trent and DeAndre Bembry are both doubtful, so neither one of Gary Trent or DeAndre Bembry are expected to play. Fred VanVleet, though, is back with the team now. So Fred VanVleet, I do want to talk about. 7,900 on DK. It's hard not to like Fred VanVleet here, assuming that we're going to get full minutes from him. Now, he hasn't played in about 2 weeks, so there could maybe be a minutes limit. This is going to be something to monitor for sure. If VanVleet's on a minutes limit, I'll definitely be off of him. But assuming that Fred VanVleet is full go, with all these guys out, with him basically like the last man healthy for this Toronto team, he should dominate the usage today, should just get all the usage, should have the ball in his hands a ton. He should be like 9K in this situation. Like if we get 36 minutes from Fred VanVleet tonight, he is very likely to put up 50-plus DK points. He's just too cheap in my opinion. So I love him from this Raptors team, assuming he's full go. He's definitely a top play for me in the mid-range, and I like him a lot on Yahoo. He's not as cheap there, $38, but I still think he looks like a really good play even at $38 on Yahoo. And then Chris Boucher, without Siakam, I think really benefits. We should get probably 30-plus minutes from Chris Boucher. Should be a lot more productive than he has been these last few games. Like without Siakam, without OG, without Lowry, Boucher should be very productive when he's on the floor. His rebounding numbers should see a spike without Siakam. 7,100, feels priced appropriately on Draftkings, but if we do go over to Yahoo, he is a lot more affordable there, only $22. I think he looks like a great center option on Yahoo at $22. Definitely one of my favorite center plays overall, so love Chris Boucher as well. And then Malachi Flynn, with Kyle Lowry out, I'm assuming that Malachi Flynn starts at point guard. They could start Fred VanVleet at point guard and then bring Malachi Flynn off the bench. But assuming that VanVleet starts at the 2 and Malachi Flynn starts at point guard, I like Malachi Flynn quite a bit because in the games that he has started recently, he's played 30-plus minutes in just about every game. He's been relatively productive on a point-per-minute basis. With all these guys out for Toronto, Malachi Flynn should be productive when he's on the floor. Obviously VanVleet being out there, going to take some usage away from Malachi Flynn, but this is someone that has shown he can be productive, when Lowry's out, when OG's out, which is the case today. Lowry, OG, Siakam all out. I do like Malachi Flynn a lot in the mid-range. Like him a lot on Yahoo. He looks too cheap over there at $23. If you're looking for a mid-range point guard option, I think he clearly stands out as one of the better plays on Yahoo. So there's a lot to like from this Toronto team. And then we can talk about these value plays. So Kim Birch started last game. I'm assuming that he starts again. He played 29 minutes in the starting lineup, have 29 DK points, 3,800. Another great value play today. It sucks on DraftKings. He's center only, but you can throw him in there with guys like Isaiah Stewart, Killian Hayes, Caleb Martin, like all these value plays. I do like Kim Birch a lot, assuming that he remains in the starting lineup. And then, so I'm guessing, we'll see obviously Fred VanVleet, Kim Birch, Chris Boucher, probably Malachi Flynn. So we're going to see those 4 guys in the starting lineup. Who is the 5th starter, though, is the big question. Like, do they start Stanley Johnson? Do they start Rodney Hood, Utah Watanabe? Like, for me, it's just a wait and see on, like, these cheap guys. So if Stanley Johnson starts, you could go there at 3,300. If Rodney Hood starts, you could play him at 3,200. If Utah starts, you could play him at minimum salary. I'm the most confident in the 4 guys we mentioned. VanVleet, Boucher, Flynn, Birch, assuming all those guys start. But the 5th guy, whichever guy does start out of these, bench players that we mentioned, could definitely be in play for value if you do want to go with a punt option from this Toronto team. But yeah, there's a lot to like from Toronto. You're definitely going to want to have some exposure to the Raptors just because, they're so shorthanded and there are still guys on this Raptors team that are severely underpriced in my opinion. But yeah, we can go ahead and talk about Denver and Houston now. So this one's going to be one we can fly through pretty quickly. Denver, you could obviously play Jokic today. There's so much value. It is very easy to get Jokic in if you do want to go that route. There's still some other stuff. Like, I'd rather play Westbrook. But Jokic is obviously a top option if you can fit him in, which you should easily be able to do today. The thing that sucks, though, is that there is a lot of good value at center. We have Isaiah Stewart. We have Kim Birch. But Jokic, obviously, a top option. Outside of Jokic, though, I don't see too much I like on Denver. Campazzo, if this was a different slate, would be a decent value, but there's so many other options I prefer today. I'm not going to go to him. So it's really just Jokic for me on the Denver side. And on Houston, I think it's really just Christian Wood and John Wall. Neither one are top options for me, but Christian Wood, he was going through a rough stretch, but he's been playing a lot better lately. 54, 53 DK points over his last 2 games. This matchup here against Jokic is not the best, but Christian Wood, when he's getting 36, 38 minutes a night, has a ton of upside. You could definitely play him. You could play John Wall. But that's probably it from the Houston side. Not a ton I really like in this game overall. Just, the stars, if you want to get to them, like Christian Wood, Wall, Jokic, you could go to. But talking about the next game now, Memphis and Chicago. So on Memphis today, Probably, for me here, it's just J-Val and John Morant. John Morant really probably not going to go there on this slate, but J-Val I do have some interest in still. He did have a ton of success against this Bulls team when they did play a couple days ago. Did have 53 DK points in 34 minutes. J-Val's consistently been getting big minutes lately. He's played at least 32 minutes in 4 straight games. If we're going to get 32, 34 minutes from J-Val, like this is a guy that can put up, 50-plus DK points in that time. He is a very productive player on a point-per-minute basis. The matchup is really good. So I do like J-Val from Memphis, but outside of J-Val, nothing else from the Grizzlies. On the Bulls side, got some big news here. So Zach LaVine is going to be out for, I believe, like 2 weeks or so. He's going to be out for health and safety protocols. So with Zach LaVine out, there's a lot of guys that are going to benefit from the Chicago team. Obviously, Vooch gets a nice bump up in usage. Vooch should be very productive when he's on the floor. 9,700 feels priced appropriately, but I still do have a good amount of interest in Vooch today with LaVine out. And then Kobe White, Tomas Satoransky, I think both benefit without LaVine. Now, Satoransky continues to be the starter. His minutes have been way more secure than Kobe White. So if I had to pick one of the guards, it would probably be Satoransky, just because I feel like he's, his minutes are more secure right now. But Kobe White should see more minutes without LaVine, should be productive when he's on the floor. We know this is a guy that, can score, has plenty of upside, and obviously taking LaVine off the floor, that takes a high usage player out, so should allow for a guy like Kobe White to get more usage. Now, at their price points, I don't think either one of Satoransky or Kobe White look like, top plays today, but they would definitely fall in the same category as a guy like Cole Anthony. Good options in the 5K range that you could definitely play if you're, mixing in some guys, if you're playing multiple lineups. These are guys I'd want to have exposure to. But value-wise, we'll have to wait and see, what the starting lineup is. I don't think LaVine's missed a game yet this season. I honestly can't remember. Or I think he actually missed one game. I'm pretty sure the one game that Zach LaVine did miss this year. Denzel Valentine did play really well off the bench. I think it was this Phoenix game. Zach LaVine was out then. Valentine played 29 minutes off the bench, had 33 DK points. If I'm going to play a cheap guy from Chicago, looking for value with LaVine out, it's probably Denzel Valentine, either him or Troy Brown Jr. Troy Brown Jr. been getting, decent minutes off the bench. He should benefit without LaVine. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who starts. I assume either Troy Brown or Denzel Valentine starts, but maybe they start Garrett Temple. Don't exactly know. Just keep an eye on the Chicago starting lineup. If we do get LaVine, or if we do get Troy Brown or Valentine starting for LaVine, then they would be decent value plays. Minimum salary would for sure be viable. Yeah, we can go ahead and talk about the next game now, Miami and Minnesota. So on Miami today, there really isn't much that stands out here. Good matchup for Jimmy and for Bam, but neither one look like top options for me. There are just so many other plays I prefer today. Overall, I don't like much on this Minnesota or Miami team. There's just so many other guys I'd rather play over Butler and Bam today. On the Minnesota side, again, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, everyone on Minnesota feels priced appropriately. The matchup here is not great. Obviously, Towns has a ton of upside, but do I want to play Towns on this slate? Not really. I think I'd rather play Jokic over Towns if I'm going to pay up for a center. Anthony Edwards, not much interest in at his price. D'Angelo Russell feels priced appropriately now. He's been seeing more minutes off the bench lately, but at $6,500, it's not like we're getting an insane discount on him. With so many other good plays today, I don't think I'm going to get to Russell. So overall, Miami and Minnesota, not a very appealing game. Just not a game I have much interest in. Moving on to the next one, though, Portland and San Antonio. Another one that I don't have much interest in at all. Dame, CJ, sure, you could play him, but this doesn't feel like a slate where I'm playing either one of those guys. I definitely would rather play Terry Rozier, Fred VanVleet over a guy like CJ McCollum. Rather play Westbrook, Jokic, all these other studs we've talked about over Lillard. Kanter, I don't have any interest in with Nurkic back. Nurkic himself is still on a minutes limit, so we can't really go to him. Don't like much on Portland, and on San Antonio, it's basically the same thing. Not much from the San Antonio team that really stands out. DeRozan, Murray, decent tournament plays, should be super low owned, but overall, I don't see a ton from San Antonio. The matchup is really good, so it wouldn't be surprising to get a good game from Dejounte Murray or get a good game from DeMar DeRozan, because obviously Portland, they're not a good defensive team. They play somewhat fast, but I just don't see any core plays coming from this game. And then last game on the night, New York and Dallas, the Knicks and the Mavs. Another game I just don't have much interest in. The Knicks side, you can always play Julius Randle, but today, I'd rather play Zion, I'd rather play Westbrook, Jokic, all these other guys we've talked about over Julius Randle. And I'm not playing, even if I go to Randle, I'm not considering any Knicks outside of Randle, and even Randle himself, I don't have much interest in today. And then on the Mavericks side, Luka, On this slate, I don't think I'm going to get to Luka. I'd rather play Westbrook and Jokic. Probably rather play Towns. I don't know. It's close there, but definitely would rather get to like Jokic, Zion, all these other guys we mentioned. Like the matchup here is not great. The Knicks play slow. They're a good defensive team. These late night games I don't have much interest in. I think you can clearly tell how I'm kind of approaching this slate. There's a few clear games for me. Orlando, Toronto, with all these Toronto guys out today. I love Charlotte, Brooklyn with all these Charlotte guys out. I like that game a lot. OKC, Detroit. On the Detroit side, there's some good value from the Pistons. And then New Orleans, Washington, there's not much value in that game, but there is a lot of good stud options with it, being such a fast-paced, high-scoring game. Guys like Westbrook, Beal, Zion, Ingram have a ton of upside in a very likely shootout. So I think it's pretty clear how I'm approaching this slate, guys. I think we're able to break everything down. 10-game slate should be very fun. Should be a crazy day. There could be even more news that comes out during the day that gives us even more value. But right now, we have a ton of value today. There's plenty of studs to pay up for. This is definitely a slate where there's a lot of ways to go. There's going to be studs that are super low owned. So if you want to load up on these chalky values and then get in some low owned studs, I think that's definitely a way you can go in tournaments. But yeah, it should be a fun slate. Appreciate you guys watching the video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button as well. And be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And you also do get notified every time I live stream. Once again, Friday afternoon, I should be live on my YouTube channel breaking everything down for this crazy slate. Talking through everything with you guys in the live stream. So if you are able to tune in then, definitely would recommend you doing so. But yeah, good luck on the slate, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.